Your roommate walks into the kitchen, looks you dead in the eye, and says, "I already ate, don't worry about breakfast." And your phone buzzes, 50 cents, no sender, no explanation, just 50 cents sitting there while he stands in front of you with a spoon in his hand and your cereal in his bowl. You don't say anything. You just stare at the screen, then at him, then back at the screen, and you tell yourself it's a glitch, a delayed refund, something boring and explainable, so you go about your morning like a normal person. Then it happens again on the walk to the bus stop, a text from your friend saying he's 5 minutes away, and you happen to know his location is still pinned 2 miles from here, and your phone buzzes again, and you stop walking right there on the sidewalk, because 2 coincidences in one morning stop being coincidences. So you test it, quietly, almost scientifically. You call another friend and ask what he's doing tonight, and he says he's probably just staying in. Nothing exciting, and you already know from his sister that he has plans, and the 50 cents lands before he even finishes the sentence. And that's the moment you stop doubting it and start watching for it. Once you're watching for it, you can't stop seeing it. The guy ahead of you in line telling someone on the phone he's walking in right now, while he's clearly still 2 blocks away. Your coworker's out-of-office reply claiming she's unreachable while she's posting online in real time. Small lie after small lie after small lie. And your account just quietly climbing while you stand there in line doing nothing at all. By lunch, you've made $6 without trying. $6 off things that barely count as lies at all. And that's when you start wondering, quietly, whether the size of the lie has anything to do with the size of the payout. So you start comparing, filing each one away, the 5 minutes away lie against the I already ate lie against whatever comes next, and you don't have to wait long for a bigger data point. Because your coworker tells your boss she finished the quarterly report and she hasn't touched it, and this one isn't 50 cents. It's $4, 8 times the going rate for a lie that could actually cost her something if it unraveled. That's the pattern locking into place. Small lie, small money, a lie with something real writing on it, real money, and once you understand the rule, you stop just noticing lies and start noticing the shape of them, which ones are worth chasing and which ones aren't. And that's when the next thought arrives. Uninvited, and it's not about noticing anymore, it's about whether you actually need to wait. You're in a conversation with a coworker a few days later, and instead of just letting the moment happen naturally, you ask a question you already know the honest answer to. Something like whether she finished her part of the project, and she says yes, and she hasn't, and the money lands, and you feel something you don't want to name, which is satisfaction, not at her lying, but at the fact that you built the moment that made her lie. You tell yourself it was just a question. Anyone could have asked it. But you know that's not entirely true because you picked the question on purpose. And once you've done it once, doing it again doesn't feel like a decision anymore. It feels like a habit, so you start structuring conversations differently. Open-ended questions instead of direct ones. Vague check-ins instead of specific ones. Giving people room to lie instead of room to just answer. And you don't think of it as manipulation. You think of it as just being a better listener, which is the part that should scare you more than it does. 2 weeks in, you've made a few $100s, and you've started keeping a mental leaderboard of who pays best. Your friend who exaggerates every story is basically a walking paycheck, and you've noticed you stopped correcting him months ago, not because you got tired of correcting him, but because correcting him now feels like turning off a faucet, and you'd rather the tap stay running. Then one night you're scrolling ads, half paying attention, and you realize every exaggerated claim, every offer that's been limited time for 8 straight months, every headline promising something it can't deliver. All of it counts, so you open your phone on purpose and just scroll for 20 minutes, and by the time you put it down, you've made more than you made at your actual job that day. And that thought just sits there in the dark, refusing to leave, because you made more off lies than off work. And once you've thought that thought, you can't really unthink it. So you start doing the math seriously, not as a joke anymore, actual math, how much you'd need to make monthly to stop needing the job at all, and the number isn't as far away as it should be. And that's when you notice you've started making small decisions around it without really deciding to. You keep the group chat open with the friend who tells the same story 3 different ways. Depending on who's listening, you stop unfollowing the accounts that clearly stretch the truth. You find yourself gravitating toward the people who talk the most, because the people who talk the most are the people who slip the most. And you tell yourself none of this is really about the money. It's just who you happen to be spending time with lately. You know that's not true. You just don't say it out loud. Then you do something you don't examine too closely at the time. You organize a night out, a bigger group than usual, the exaggerator, the coworker who's already proven she'll lie under pressure, a couple of people you barely know who talk fast and loose, and you spend the whole night asking easy, generous questions. How's work going? How's everything with your ex? Did you end up telling your landlord about the deposit? Questions built to be answered comfortably rather than honestly. And by the end of the night, your phone has buzzed more times than it has in the entire 2 weeks combined. One single evening worth more than half your paycheck, and driving home you're not thinking about how strange that is, you're thinking about how to do it again next weekend. You start doing it again next weekend, and the one after that. By the end of the month, you've made enough that 50 cents feels like something from a different life, a joke, a rounding error, and somewhere in that shift you notice you're not the same person who stood frozen on the sidewalk a month ago. That person was confused. This person plans evenings around it, and the strange part is you didn't feel yourself change. You just looked up one day and the change had already happened, which is exactly the state you're in the night someone you actually love tells you something. Not a stranger, not a coworker you engineered a question for, not someone you invited out to loosen up, someone who has never once been part of the leaderboard in your head, someone you would have said a month ago you'd trust with anything. And for a half second before you even process what they said, your stomach does this small, ugly flip of excitement because your phone is already buzzing and it's the biggest number you've ever seen, bigger than the report, bigger than the whole engineered night out, bigger than anything, and for 1 second, one horrible second, you're thrilled. Then you actually hear what they said, and the number stops mattering, and the excitement curdles into something else immediately, because this isn't a stranger's 5-minute excuse or a coworker protecting a deadline. This is someone who looked at you and decided lying was safer than telling you the truth. In a life you built over the last month, specifically to reward that decision and everyone else, and somewhere underneath the sickness in your stomach, there's a quieter, worse question forming, which is whether some part of you has been hoping this whole time that people close to you would lie too, because it turns out you've spent weeks training the world around you to be less honest, one comfortable question at a time. And you never noticed you were doing it until the bill came due from someone you actually love. You don't touch the money. You just sit there holding the phone, staring at a number that used to feel like winning, and now it just feels like proof. Not proof of how much you can make, but proof of what all those small, easy, forgettable decisions added up to. The 50 cents you didn't question, the question you asked on purpose, the friend you kept around because he was profitable, the night out you planned like a harvest, the correction you swallowed because silence paid better than honesty. None of those felt like a betrayal in the moment, and that's exactly how you ended up here, wondering whether, if this person offered you the truth right now, the hard, expensive, unpaid truth, some small traitorous part of you would rather they didn't. You still remember the first one, your roommate, cereal in his mouth, telling you he already ate. Small, harmless, forgettable, except now you know it wasn't a strange little bonus. It was the first payment on something you didn't know you were signing up for. The next time someone tells you they're 5 minutes away, you check your phone before you check the door, and that's the part you can't forgive yourself for.